So we're going to get to our first segment today, which is the Toledo shooting. Was the shooting good? I don't know at this point right now. And good isn't in the God, do we ever want to see a 13-year-old child die at the hands of anyone, let alone a police officer? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You have to understand the totality of the circumstances of what was going on the scene at the moment. Now, I think about getting in that officer's mind, right? I think the more important question to ask is whether or not Adam would be alive today. Would things have been different in that alley at 2:30 in the morning if Adam were white? That, I think, is the most important discussion to have. We'll never know for sure, but this is the discussion that needs to be forced. Would the officer, I don't have his name off the top of my head right now, would he have taken an extra second before he decided to shoot if Adam was white, non-Latino? Would he have done that? Would he have been less fearful of what was going on in that alley, even though it was very serious? Someone chasing someone with a gun is incredibly serious to the life of that officer and public safety. But would it have been different if he was white? That to me is the only question that matters. It's really hard to say what you would have done in that alley. But would that officer have done something different? Just one beat longer before he shot if Adam was white? Would he have been less scared of what was going on in an alley, even though it was incredibly serious, if Adam were white? And that's what's in him, but it's in what's in our police, it's what's in our city, it's what's in our culture. Racism just goes so deep that even people who don't mean to be racist often are, without even knowing it. And that's a cultural issue rather than an individual issue. As a city, as a state, as a country, we only like individual issues. Bad apples. Just a few bad apples. As Trevor Noah said recently, especially with all the shootings we've seen, killings of black men around this country. The problem really isn't, a discussion shouldn't be about bad apples. It's about where are the good apples and what are they doing? As I have said, since I started CJP, actually before I started the Chicago Justice Project 14 and a half years ago, a little about that, it isn't. Identifying the bad cops is easy. Jamie Calvin's Invisible Institute site, we know who the bad cops are. You know what? The police also know. It isn't identifying the bad cops. It's about having the good cops do something to prevent or stop the bad cops. And I'm getting a comment from YouTube that the officer's name is Eric Stillman. I think that's right. I hope that's right, because I hate to put people's names if they're wrong, especially in such a serious situation. Let's get to the foot pursuit real quick. That was a bad foot pursuit. We need to like the mayor said, we need to redo foot pursuits. There was a shooting that was caught on ShotSpotter. As crappy a technology as that is, it is, but it worked at this time because there was shots, I think 8, at a car with people in it, I believe. Plus there were 911 calls. Officers are responding to the scene. I don't think, except for the abolitionist crowd, are you going to get people in Chicago or any city to say, hey, we don't want cops responding to shootings. Think of all the active shooters we've had recently. Mass shootings. You don't want cops to respond at all? They respond, one officer or a pair of officers a few blocks away from the scene, see Adam and a other man in an alley, 2:30 in the morning. Adam's got a gun in his hand. Yeah, you respond to that. And if Adam runs, there's a foot pursuit. And that's a foot pursuit where most likely, if we redo the foot pursuit policy, we're going to have. Adam stays in the officer's vision the entire time. he starts running through backyards and crossing streets and you can't see him and you lose him, that's when you start thinking about whether or not it's the right time to call off that foot pursuit. But a foot pursuit of an armed offender when you're responding to multiple shots fired, yeah, that's probably something, a foot pursuit, that we want them to have. We don't know if there's people lying in the street dead a block away. These guys may have killed 5 people. We have no idea. Right? And the officers on the scene certainly don't. So there's talk about being a bad foot pursuit, and I'm all fine, and I am hugely in favor of redoing the foot patrol policy, the foot pursuit policy. But let's not equate 1 and 1. This was not a bad foot pursuit. Just as when you get with the Anjanette Young ordinance and these aldermen, just mind-blowingly, we gotta reform no-knock warrants. We've got to reform no-knock warrants. We've got to do it. Well, that's great, but the Anjanette Young case wasn't a no-knock warrant. So redoing that is not going to have take any step into preventing that. So even if we redid the foot pursuit policy in Chicago, and I think it needs to be done, I don't think it would affect this case. And people saying it would and it would and it would, I don't think they have anything to stand on. They have no ground to stand on whatsoever. They certainly don't have any facts. So it's horrific. I think, like most Chicagoans, I wish we never had happened. Preventing it, something like this, isn't the foot pursuit policy that needs to be redone. It's the economics in Chicago. Like I'm for redoing it. I'm going after the police department, getting it much more accountable. But to make sure this doesn't happen again, really long term, it's the economics that got to change. That's the real culprit of all of this. Would Adam be dead if he was white? I have my doubts. I can't say 100% at this point. But I really have my doubts. And everyone should use this not as a way of, I'm fine forcing in reforms of the police department, but this is about economics. That's what brought this on. And that's what's got to be done.